Most people overpay for car insurance, not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
Hey there, I'm your host, Tisha Michelle, and welcome to #Certified, where you will leave enlightened, empowered, and inspired to live a life of authenticity. Let's go. Welcome back to #Certified. I'm your host, Tisha Michelle. Last week, I talked about being your authentic self, so it's only fitting to have today's guest on. She once considered herself a misfit. From the support of her family and her faith in God, the things that she could have allowed to define her were the exact things that shaped who she is today and allowed her to remember her purpose in life. We did have a little bit of a technical difficulty where it kind of lost her. She went in and out, but you know what? It's all good. It's a part of life. You just roll with it, right? So join me in the conversation with Malaysia of Suhlayyed. Hey, girl.
Hello.
All right, well, definitely I want to start off by saying thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today because I really do appreciate your time.
My pleasure. It is really like a blessing to even be on a platform like this. This is one of the first times I'm doing this, but I'm really excited.
Oh,
And
nice.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Definitely welcome.
Okay, well, hello, everybody. My name is Malaysia Moore, but I'm branded Malaysia Simone. I own a beauty brand. I sell hair extensions, makeup, lashes, the whole nine, and that is Shop Suhlayyed, formerly known as Suhlayyed Hair. I also work with other entrepreneurs, especially young entrepreneurs, with image consulting, and I've done a little bit of motivational speaking, but I'm moving into more so ministry instead of motivational speaking at this time. I'm 22. I'm a military wife. I'm from Richmond, Virginia originally. That's where I grew up. But the last few months and for the next 2 years, I'll be living in Colorado Springs here in Fort Carson with my husband. I'm a soon-to-be mommy. I'm expecting in December. Don't know what we're having yet, but I'm truly excited and blessed to be able to bear a child. That's a blessing in itself.
That's good.
Yes.
It absolutely is a blessed assured to being a child. So congrats again. All right. So personally, I believe experience is the greatest teacher. And that's one of the main reasons why I created #Certified, so that I can share like experiences and journeys with those who, one, resonate with them. It also give people another perspective and remind people of the power that lies within them, the power that's in all of us. So again, we all have a story and we all have experiences. And as I connect with others, I want to bring like those stories and experiences to my listeners as well. So when me and you were chatting that day, I was like, yep, you got to be on the podcast. Got to have you. I need you to share this story. Like, it's amazing. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so you're 22,
Yes, ma'am.
married to a soldier,
Mm-hmm.
first child on the way.
Mm-hmm.
You have your brand, which I say is a movement. But how did you get here?
Well, I'm still very young. I'm 22, but like you said, experience is very important, and I really have been reflecting on my experience and what my brand has become. And just, I feel like it started out was when I switched, well, in high school, honestly, like around my 10th grade year. I was a cheerleader. I went to one school for like 3 years, and then I switched at the end of my 11th grade to my senior year. But just in school, I was always an outcast, and I put quotations around outcast. I was a captain of the cheerleading squad, and I was in art club and all that stuff, but like I never really fit into any real group. I was always on my own, always doing my own thing, and I was really picked apart by that. And growing up, your self-esteem is very affected by what people say about you and how people treat you, especially in like a high school setting when everybody's still trying to figure out ourselves. And in that moment, I grew up with my mom just encouraging me to be who I was. So for people to not accept me how my family accepted me, it was really confusing and it was really a challenging time. But it wasn't until I switched schools at the end of my 11th grade year, went to a new school, that I really started to get into who I was called to be. I got into fashion. I grew up in a salon, and I got into the point of me doing my own hair, making wigs and stuff like that. That's where my business comes originally came from, just my cosmetology background with my family. And then I was with some friends, like, you know, in high school, you sometimes you can get mixed in with the wrong crowds and stuff like that, and they weren't doing anything wrong, but they weren't with my best interests, and that really affected my self-esteem. I was in one of my first relationships. I was like, it was like an emotional abusive type situation, like nothing physical at all, but because of I was growing so confidently, figuring out who I was and really confident in what I was doing and really finding my way at that point in time, and that person was still lost. It was intimidating because they seen my growth and they felt like I was surpassing them in a way. And this is the person I'm in a relationship with, so it's really crazy to just think about, like, you connected with me, but now you're trying to break me apart. And at the time, you know, you're blind to that, especially being so young. You're blind to what's actually taking place. And it got to the point where, like, for me doing my hair, my makeup, and me getting into fashion, like, I was to the point where I was making my prom dresses. Like, I was there in the midst of my creativity that I was given. This person hated it or didn't understand it. So, like, I was told that I didn't feel beautiful because I wore weed and wore makeup and dressed extra, because I'm going out to the store and I'm all dressed up. But how I was brought up and who God has called me to be, that was the thing. So I started to dim my light to make other people feel comfortable. And for a few years, I got into that, just dimming my light, being normal. And I'll put quotations about that.
Yeah, because what's really normal?
Being
Yeah,
normal and
what's
what I
normal?
thought people wanted to see of me. That comes down to how I styled my hair. I used to have so much colorful hair. I used to wear really, like, out there clothes. That, when I say used to, I'm definitely back there. I'm in a comfortable realm now, but within this time frame, I was not doing this. Especially, it affected my business because what made me stand out as a brand and entrepreneur was something that I put away for so long. And this is where I really start to see where Suhlayyed started to grow. So that's where I got kicked off my track originally, with all that confusion and me figuring out myself, and then me getting canceled. and then and then there was this time frame where I realized I met my husband, my current, when we were dating, when we first met. He was a totally different person from who I was dealing with before. And he kind of taught me how to love myself again and appreciate myself, because he never, also, when I came to him, I was in my bare natural state. I didn't really try and spruce myself up or anything like that, but it didn't matter whether I was up or down. Like, he was always there, and that affected me because I pushed him away for a while. But
it was different. It was something
yeah,
different.
it was totally different, and I actually took that time, which he probably still doesn't understand. Hopefully he does when he gets older. Why I pushed him away, but I really took that time to learn how to love myself, because I was hearing, you can't love yourself. No, if you don't love yourself, how can anybody else love you? And it was getting to the point where there was problems coming because of what I wasn't able to accept, which is another part of what's going on, my acceptance of what I've been blessed with. So I took the time to get into fitness. I took the time to build my brand. I took the time to really figure out who I was called to be. And that's when I started to understand my calling of and what Suhlayyed actually means, and why it moves from a brand slash business into a movement. Because of even, and we talked about this the other day, I'm not fancy, I just love myself. You know, that's intimidating. Sometimes the way that you present yourself can be intimidating, but as long as you're true to yourself and you love yourself and you're where you feel like you're supposed to be at, like, that's absolutely fine. And you don't have to explain yourself for that, and you don't have to make anybody else feel comfortable with being around you, because you're being your true self. If they're uncomfortable with you being your true self, maybe they need to figure out their true self too.
Yeah. Well, because exactly, I tell people when people start judging you or they start coming at you, like, okay, their perception of you is just a reflection of them. So I do want to pause and go back a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
something that you said, because I know that many people go through this and people are still going through this. I mean, I've gone through it before, is where we start to dim our light. We dim our light other people to make other people feel, where when you say it out loud, you'd be like, that's the craziest
Yeah,
shit ever.
yeah, honestly.
That is the stupidest shit ever. Like, why am I going to dim my light because you feel like that? That's crazy. How about you just start shining with me or shine brighter
Yeah,
than me? But
absolutely.
the reality is, it's very common.
It really is.
And like I said, I believe we've all experienced some form of that. But when you were dimming your light, how did that person, well, twofold question. One,
Well, how first I'm gonna start off with how they start to feel, because honestly, when you're trying to please other people, they're never pleased. I'm
mm-hmm,
just gonna say this: they're never
yep,
pleased, and it came from me wearing weave, and I went natural because that's what that person wanted. They wanted a girl that wore natural hair, so I started wearing my natural hair, and well, honestly, I really didn't try and dim that down because like that's me. Like I don't care. You can't tell me what to wear. But somewhat, if I was around them and their friends, I would try to cover up a little bit more because we're young, and I've been small framed my whole entire life. But I am a black woman, so as you grow
mm-hmm,
up, you get curves, and that was intimidating, especially for a young male that's insecure. He can't handle that. So I tried to do that, but in the process, and I stopped wearing makeup too. But I had like acne, so there was a little backstory like with me wearing makeup because I felt more comfortable wearing makeup. But it was to the point where I wouldn't leave the house wearing it. So they were upset. They didn't really care. They were just like, okay, they can see that they were starting to gain control over me, and they kind of got a little bit excited and kept going and started nitpicking at every single thing that I was doing and accusing me of different
mm,
things because they were getting control and just feeding into their insecurities and stuff like that. But for me, honestly, just reflecting over the process, I actually learned to love myself a little bit more, a lot more
mm,
actually, because I was insecure about my natural hair. But over the years, over the last 5 years, I've got my hair thicker. I grew my edges back. My curl patterns popping.
mm-hmm,
So I was just
mm-hmm.
like, in return, even though you was hating on me, I actually grew in that process. My skin got better. My skin is glowing now. I took the time to get into natural skincare and stuff like that and actually listen to my body. And I actually did this thing fast from your mask because I did
Mm,
realize that even though this person was insecure and I made them insecure by the things that I was doing, I did realize that I did have some insecurities of my own. So I fasted
mm-hmm.
from my mask, the things that I used to cover up,
The things you use to define you.
enhancements. Okay, so like now if I put on makeup, I actually feel better without makeup now, but before then I couldn't say that. So it's just like I
Yeah.
fasted and found myself in that process. So honestly, like they got a little bit crazy and out of control and that situation like blew up in the flames. But honestly, I blossomed into a flower because of it. So I
Yeah, it was
think
the blessing in
yeah,
disguise.
it really was.
Uh, it was. And, I like to let a lot of people know, like, we're all mirrors and reflections of each other. So even though he was approaching it one way,
Mhm.
it forced you to look at the insecurities that you didn't even really realize that you had
Mhm.
and to focus on that. So that's dope itself right
That
there.
really is.
So
It's like thank you Lord for looking out for me.
yeah. Sometimes we take things, we like to tell people a lot. Like, really, there's really, in my opinion, my belief, there's no good or bad situation. It's all about an
Mhm.
experience. And it's what type of experience you want to have. What is this teaching me? So for you, you could have, yes, you were dimming your light, but you also ran with it. Like, wait a minute, this is teaching me something. Wow. I actually do have an insecure with my natural hair. So let me start to love myself more. Let me start to not wear the makeup. So now when you wear the makeup, it's just for a bonus. It's just because you want to. It's not because
Yeah.
you feel like you have to or you
Yeah.
need to. And I think that's so important, for everyone and like the listeners to know is that when certain things are coming at you or people are coming at you, to step back and really think, say, wait a minute, what is the situation teaching me? What am I to learn from this? And being able to pull that, I guess, that silver lining, pull that out of there. And what is it that you're going to do with it versus just allowing someone to control you?
Absolutely. And that's exactly like where Suhlayyed, like the meaning of Suhlayyed, like that's literally what it means. Like even through the hard times and the journey of becoming yourself, like becoming what God wants you to be, like you really pull from everything and you look at things more positive. That's what I've been trying to do, is look more into things more positively and get influenced that way, so I can actually become who he wants me to be and how he wants me to be, and just be nurtured in that self-love and that slay. That's what, and I put the ed at the end because it's already done. When God calls you to do something, it's already done. He's already paved it for you. I slay, I'm slaying, I'm slayed. Like, period. It's all forms of the thing, because I'm already completed. I've been perfect from the beginning because I'm exactly who he wants me to be, and I'm chasing after who he wants me to be. And that's what Suhlayyed means. And in this process, I'm really learning, like, dang, man, the way he works, like
Oh my gosh,
the way,
beautiful,
how
right?
much thought has come into my personal branding, just me building myself. And that's why I do image consulting, because I think people, like, that's overlooked, especially in the business realm. Your personal branding, who you are, and what your story is, and like you said, your experiences. That's what creates your passion. That's what creates your desires and your wants and hopes and dreams and stuff like that. That's why I do image consulting, because people don't know. Like, I do it a little bit different than like the average, like, hair, makeup, pictures and stuff like that. But the person
You're
itself,
getting to the root. You're
yeah,
getting to the root of the person, the core, who you absolutely are, like the core of you. I did a talk at marketing, someone's team, and it was on FaceTime, and they're used to the traditional business stuff, like, okay, this is what you need to do for sales, this is what you need to do. When I was giving that talk yesterday on the Facebook Live in a network marketing company, it was different for them to hear from me, because they're used to all the sales and the marketing and all the rah-rah stuff, and all that is great. It's no shade to any of that, because you do need that. But if you don't know who you are and you don't believe in yourself, none of that stuff matters. So it's the same thing even when you get to like the image consultant. So people can, and there's no shade to anyone in that field. All that's great is teaching you, with the hair and the makeup and, all the cosmetics, and that's great. However, you also need to, again, love yourself, understand what maybe your blockages are, or maybe like your fears or your insecurities, and understand that you are perfect exactly as you are. All those other things are just a bonus. I love that you're bringing your uniqueness and your authentic self to the whole image field, and working with people on to loving themselves and being who they are, and then adding all that extra stuff. That's the whole total package. So kudos to you for that.
This is what I would be doing. But yeah, honestly, a friend had actually, because we were sitting down, I was a part of organization back in Richmond, actually, called Sisters Who Slay, which is a young Black entrepreneur nonprofit for young Black women out in Richmond. It started off as hair professionals, but then they've expanded, and they're rebranding right now. But we were talking, because we were trying to provide services, like online services for our members and the people in the community. And I was just like, what do I do? This is what I'm passionate about. And my friend Sarah, she messaged me and she was just like, this is what you do. You're image consultant. I was like, an image consultant? She was like, yeah, this is, and this is a list of the stuff that they cover, and this is you. Plus the mentorship and the motivational speaking and stuff like that. That's basically what you do. It's like, wow, didn't know that. Thank you. Now I have a title. Like, now I can tell people what I'm doing.
Isn't that beautiful how God will send people along to give us exactly what it is that we need, just to help to remind us. I tell people all the time, you don't have to find your purpose and your passion stuff. You just need to remember what it is. And you get that, you start to remember as you start to take off the layers, but through all the experience. So even with you, with the young man that you were dating, that experience was leading you to who you are. Even though your mom always expressed this, okay, to be different, whatever that means, right? To be who you are. But you started to forget it a little bit more when you were then with this person who then said certain things to you. But then that strength, I believe, from your story and what we've talked, also going back to your family, accepting you exactly as you are. So you just had, you lost it for a little bit, and then you had to snap back out of it. And it'll just continue, like, through all the experiences we have, we'll start to really get to the core of who we are. I know you, like, just even in this conversation, you've mentioned, God, like, a lot. So I want you to just, like, tell me a little bit about that. Where does that faith
okay, honestly,
this
I grew
calling,
up
like,
in the
where
church.
was that really
My
truly
mom grew
birthed?
up in the church. Her family grew up in the church, both sides. They're from a small country town, small country living. like very strong Baptist Christian faith, even to the point like when you go to our family reunion, like you can tell like we it's holy rollers out here, like from we were praying over the food, everything, like playing gospel music, like that's literally what I grew up around. And really being in the church, I was always brought up in the church. My mom my mom and dad actually believed that we should be in ministry starting young. So like we would praise dance or sing in the choir. Like we had to do something, usher, something in the church because we were brought up to serve. And I really thank them for that because even though like in the church now, all the traditions about church, they're really like to me because I grew a little bit more spiritually. Church isn't like me anymore. I don't think it was ever me because I always felt uncomfortable. Like I said, I've never really fit in, really. But that, and then it wasn't until I would say around the time that I met my husband, and around that time that I was going through all those changes and I was finding how to love myself and things like that, I understood who God, I started to understand personally who God was. So even though my whole entire life for 18 years, I've been in church and like learning about God and how he works and stuff like that, it wasn't until I was an adult and on my own and realized like needing guidance in that way, not seeking help from my mom anymore. I was seeking guidance somewhere else, and God happened to, because of what I've been trained, that's who came in. And honestly, as I get older, I really, really get really close. I think me and Jesus have a really good relationship. I think we see
Yeah.
I feel like we see eye to eye sometimes, hard headed, but there's a lot of lessons that within me being in that environment, just a very spiritual, religious environment that were instilled in me and I didn't even know, which I'm thankful for. So let's see. Within my fitness, when I started getting into shape, that was more of like a fasting thing and a more of a commitment to God. Like I'm giving, like that was a time that I spent with God. Most people put on their headphones and really get into a workout, but those were times that I was meditating and praying and stuff like that, really getting into challenging my body and my mind, staying to myself, watching who I was friends with and stuff like that, and just really getting into that, and even picking my relationships. Like I told you, my husband wasn't feeling God at one point in time. Yeah, my husband, when
Oh,
we were
yes. Please
19,
share that. Please share. That was
and we
very
were getting really
powerful.
serious, and he was thinking about going to the army and stuff like that, and he wasn't feeling God because his father was killed when he was younger, and he felt like he was going to church. He got baptized and everything like that at a very young age. He was seeking a relationship with God on his own, with him and his sister. And it wasn't until his dad passed away that he just didn't understand, like, if I worship God and I serve God and I love God, why would he do this? Why would he take my father away from me? Especially for a young black male, your father figure, if you have one, that's such a substantial thing for his growth. And that was stripped from him. And that's something that he had to live with for a very long time. And no one really redirected that mindset that God didn't take away your father and that God is still that love that you need as long as you continue to seek after him and serve him and be who he has called you to be. You will never want or need for anything because you'll already have it. So anything that you feel like in the physical form is not there, he will provide for you in the spiritual form. And that's deep. I felt that. And but nobody redirected that. So it was getting to a time that he was like, at this point, I love the Lord. I know God. I'm like a babe in the spiritual realm. I'm like, yes, God is awesome. I'm still like that, but it was fresh. It was new. I was understanding. And he was just like sarcastic, like, and really skeptical, like never saying that God isn't who he is, but is he who he is kind of situation. And I was like, one day I pulled him to the side. It's like, hey, look, you ain't gonna keep disrespecting my Lord like that. I said, I love you. I love you a lot. And you have a calling in your life, and I can see it. I can feel it. And the things that you're feeling about how God betrayed you is false because he has had his hand over top of you your whole entire life, even before your father died. So if you can give him a chance, I can teach you, I can nurture you, I can show you in that way of how God is there for you and how he loves you. And he walked out the house. He left. I was like, I basically told him, I was just like, I'm not going to hell behind you because I love you and you're a great man. Like, you're awesome and you're better than what I've ever experienced. And I can't go to hell behind you, or I can't miss out on what God has for me because of what you decide to block in your life or you decide not to realize in your life. And that was hard for him. He was like, you know what, I'm out. But he wanted to sit in the car, and I didn't know. And I'm sitting there like, at one point, I wanted to cry, and I was like, dang, I done lost my best friend. And then another part was just like, you know what, you done nothing wrong. You done exactly what God has called you to do. You know, this is what you're here for. Excuse me. And I don't know, like, he doesn't even know what he may be blocking if he decides to actually leave. And I just prayed for him at that moment, even though he's leaving my presence and the nurturing arms of the Spirit that I can provide for him and that my family has kept for him. Like, then Lord, just keep your hand on him. Wherever he decides to go, find him where he's going. But then he knocked on the door and came back, and he said he'll try. And ever since then, he's honestly been trying. It's been hard, and there's some things like he wasn't raised like I was at all. So the way I operate is different, and that comes to how we run our household now, especially being newlyweds and being really young. And that goes into the other conversation that we were having about when I couldn't hear God. I couldn't hear him. We got married in December.
Yes.
And I got pregnant in March. And now in June 1st, we moved to Colorado. We got to Colorado Springs. So that's a lot of different things. That's a lot of changes in 6 months. We're married.
Changes,
we're not boyfriend and
a lot of
anymore,
news.
We're married.
A lot of
and he was in
things.
Germany for 2 years over there. He was stationed over there. So we were doing long distance, to living with each other, to growing our child, to moving out and getting our own place, being in a new town that we never knew. And I was really in a really good spiritual place before he came home, before I found out that I was pregnant and all that stuff like that. I was in a really good spiritual place. I was really thriving. I was really understanding. I was meditating for, like, they say, like, if you can meditate for like 20 minutes, you're doing a good job. I was like 15 minutes of meditating, working out 2 days, just really I was really in it with myself. Me and Jesus was really, really connected. And then he was going through stuff because he's a young male. He's married now. He just realized all the responsibility that he now has. And then we found out that we're pregnant. And then that affects, and then the stuff that we have to go through to actually get our home and get settled, a lot of financial stuff that we were unaware of, and a lot of like family issues and stuff like that. Just, it was a lot of imbalance and disconnect and frustration and confusion within that time. And I remember one lesson, within a time of frustration, God is setting you up for something great. But I didn't remember none of that stuff. Okay, in this time frame, I kind of got mute. Like, I was moving, I was really calm. He was really like anxious and stuff like that, but I was so calm. I don't even know how we drove to Colorado, honestly. It was a 24-hour drive. I don't remember it. I was definitely in God's will at that time, and I just didn't know it. But once I got here, we got settled. He went back to work, and I was just in this house. Me, my baby, it's just quiet. And I'm trying to pray, can't pray. Trying to meditate, don't know how to meditate. Like, it's not connecting. I don't feel comfortable. I'm trying to look at my vision boards and stuff like that. They're not resonating. I don't feel desires or anything that I was feeling before all this stuff happened. It wasn't working for me. And it kind of scared me, but then it kind of humbled me as well. Like, I can't hear him, but I know he's there, because I wouldn't have gotten this far, and I can see the blessings around me. So I know that he got me, but I can't hear him. And that's what really stuck with me. So I started doing little stuff. I started literally trying to pray. I started reading my devotional. My grandmother gave me a devotional as a wedding gift, daily devotional book. And that's all I could read. I couldn't read my Bible. I had to turn, like, my notifications on my little Bible app would come. It didn't really touch me spiritually. Like, I didn't feel anything. Me trying to pray, it was to the point, like, I could barely say my prayers before I go to sleep. And the only thing that was really keeping me, because my husband was just like, we got to bless the food. And I was just thanking God that even when I'm not able to, he was able to. Like, we got to bless, like, even little stuff, like bless the food, praying before we go to sleep, praying before we go on trips and stuff like that, just getting in the car, praying for safe travel and mercies and everything like that. Like, that he was able to put his step in and be that, because I was not able to do that. And I am the spiritual leader right now in our household. So I was just like, okay. But as things started going, and I started to work, and I started to really seek after him, I started to not force myself, but really push myself to start working out and getting into the things that I used to do, but I'm pregnant, so it's kind of hard to do, like, work out, to cook, to pull myself together, like, to even, like, yeah, just adult in general. Like, I quit. Like,
So
like
just adult.
if I get out the
It's the
bed, that's a
life.
good day, honestly. But like, that's where I was, and like, I think in about a month, I was starting to feel like I could hear him again, and I was getting so excited. Even though that time frame of where I couldn't feel him, I couldn't hear him or anything like that. That's before I relaunched my business and everything. I was just like, yo, like, Lord, where you at? Can you hear me? Father, can you hear me?
I think that's so, and I believe I mentioned that when we talked before about this. I think that it's just so beautiful that one, you were seeking out your higher power, your higher source, and then two, you recognize that you couldn't hear. And I think that's a lot of times what people will go through, circumstances and situations, and they just say, well, God doesn't exist. Well, God wasn't there. God wasn't this, wasn't that. And it's no, you just weren't able to hear him. You just weren't open to receive, because for many of us, and there was a point when I was like that of myself, I'm no longer like that, but you think it's this like huge, extravagant thing that just drops down from the sky and it's just like, here's your message. But that's not how it is. God will use other people for opportunities or to relay messages, and all of a sudden someone tells you about a book to read, or somebody says, oh, have you ever seen such and such on Netflix? Or you'll overhear a conversation from someone, or you'll just automatically just know something. There's so many different ways that spoken to us, but we get so bogged down with life and all the worry and the fear and the resentment or the lack mentality, or feeling like we don't have purpose, especially if you're not working. Yeah, because I know a little bit of your story. When you're in Richmond and you're doing your thing and you're working maybe multiple jobs and you have business and everything is shaking, and then when you get there, it's like, wait a minute, over. You're not doing much with your business, and you start to feel that lack of purpose. And it's like what people know all the time. I say, work is what gives us purpose. And when I say work, whatever it is that you're doing, where you feel like, you're purposeful. I believe you had said something like the night before, you had said some like prayer, you was asking God for like assistance, and then you posted what you said about your dream on Facebook, and then I responded to it, well, by sending you a message. And if you want to talk like a little bit like about that process when you read the message from me.
Oh yeah, okay. So I was having nightmares, and I just, once again, being pregnant, weird things happened. I thought that I was just having weird dreams, but these dreams started to change. As I would get in more to chasing after God and trying to hear his voice, the more weird and uncomfortable these dreams have gotten. Like, I woke my husband out of his sleep one night because I was like that scared of my dreams. So I posted on Facebook, is this normal? And a lot of people were just like, yeah, is it what you ate before you went to sleep? Or it's just because you're pregnant, weird things happen. And I had dreams about X, Y, and Z. But then you had messaged me privately, and your message wasn't offensive at all. But because of where I was and not accepting like what was going on, and being young, being pregnant, being on your own and married and stuff like that, like people trying to give you advice, I didn't want, like, and I was just like, I'm tired of everybody their opinions. I asked one question: is it weird? Is it normal? Somebody's messaging me trying to help me out and give me advice. I'm not here for it. And then I calmed down, and I was just like, you know what? Let me read this message. Let me read it and calm down and get from myself. And I read it, and basically you were even offered to give me a call, because I knew that you already know, like, texting, communication might be a little bit off. You really weren't trying to be off-putting at all. And I received that after I calmed down and read it. And you were just like,
it was the inner child.
Yeah, it's the things that are coming back from things that you felt like you might probably have overcame, but you just kind of covered it up. You kind of put it to the back. You ignored it and stuff like that. And because I was calling for God to reveal things to me, I was calling him. I was asking him to make himself known to my ears, to my heart, to my spirit once again. You were sent in that form to relieve me of the things that were hindering me. Because being back in this vulnerable situation, like you said, like, I'm out here by myself, don't know nobody. I'm a wife. I'm not working 3 jobs anymore. I haven't really kicked back up in my business yet. I didn't feel my purpose anymore. I didn't feel my importance anymore. And I'm in a different position than what I was originally in a way calmer environment. Even though this is what I realized, even talking to you, this is what I've been asking for, to be in this space where I have freedom spiritually and mentally and emotionally to grow. I didn't know that that's where I've been put in right now. I was very upset. And
Yeah.
I was starting to feel like that vulnerable high school girl with all this craziness going on in our household, even from me being brought up and being the person who I am. Their parents went through a divorce, brother and sister growing up. I'm the oldest, have to take care of them, to help my mom out. Stuff like that, like, and how I felt about myself because of school and my relationships, that was coming back to me. Also, how I felt about my parents in those times when things were confusing as a young child. Those were the dreams that I was having, and I didn't understand. Like, I thought I gave this over. I thought this was good. I thought it was cool on this. It really wasn't. And you came to me and you let me know, like, it's okay. You're probably going to go through this in the end because there's different lessons that you have to learn. But in this time, that's what he's bringing to the forefront for you to address. And I was like, dang. Yep. Like, I know. And think about if I would have just said, okay, thanks, and been dismissive, I would have blocked my blessing because I wouldn't be here on this call with you today. I wouldn't have had the growth in my business that I've had in the last month. I wouldn't have found the peace and the joy that I've been having because I released those things. I haven't had a bad dream since that day we talked. Honestly, I didn't tell you that.
Awesome.
I didn't
awesome.
tell you that, but I have
That's
not
amazing.
had a bad dream since. I haven't had anything. Being young and we have insecurity, especially with being like married and stuff like that. I haven't had any dreams about my husband. I haven't had any bad dreams about my child and their health or anything like that. I haven't had anything at all. Financial dreams, anything like that may be heavy on us in a different environment. I haven't had any of those dreams. And I've been in a place spiritually where like I'm receiving and I'm understanding. And even then, I didn't tell you this either. Sunday I went back to church.
Okay.
So I haven't been to church now since October. Now I rededicated my life to Christ in October because I felt like it was necessary, especially because I was about to get married in December, and I knew that what I was about to enter into was there's going to be some warfare that I would have to saddle up for, get ready for, but I didn't know that it would be like it is.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I would feel as lost as I was from being so spiritually connected before. But I stopped going to church because of the traditions, like praise and like you go to church, it's like praise and worship, welcome, fellowship. You hear the word, you give offering, you do the benediction, and then you fellowship again. You go home, you go out to eat or something like that. That was my life for years, my whole entire life actually. And I was just like, I wasn't getting what I really needed. What was it? When I got saved, it wasn't Vacation Bible School. What was it? It was either convocation or revival. I don't remember. It was one of those two type of nighttime things. But that's when I got saved, and that was the first time I ever shout. First of all, I was scared shouting my whole entire life. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know I was shouting. Didn't know I was dancing. But it took place, and that me being spiritually vulnerable in that moment, that's what changed my life. And I was like, you know what? There's something more than what's in these four walls. And that's when I started seeking differently. But now realizing who I am in my household and who I need to be for my child, who I need to be for my husband, and how I want my household to be run, and how it just makes me feel in general, I would need to get into his presence a little bit more. Like, even though here in my house, my husband leaves. He's in the military. If anybody's familiar with how that is, being with like a parent that's in the military or a spouse that's in the military, they have a lot of weight on them, and there's a lot of spirits out there on that base that they deal with and that they can possibly bring back home. And that was interfering with the force field that I have built, being in here all day, being spiritual and talking to Jesus and producing great work, ministering and all that stuff like that. He would come home and his spirit's heavy. And most unfortunately, a lot of the times, negativity outweighs positivity. And his spirit will easily flip me. I'm not perfect. I'm still a human.
For sure.
And
human.
and that would cause chaos. And we're not a couple that argues. We're not a couple like we're really like we're connected. But when he goes to work and he's been in the field and stuff like that, like those long times without being home, without being connected, just being out there with people that may not be believers, that may be going through stuff on their own, and just the way, I ain't getting into politics and the government, but y'all know, y'all know, all that, and then coming home, we weren't seeing eye to eye, and he had a strong spirit of frustration on him, and he couldn't hear me when, what I was saying to him, and even me trying to hold my composure and being that example. The Bible says that we're supposed to be an example in our household spiritually, that I was not getting hurt at all. I was being stepped all over at that point. Like, I was just like, okay, well, and I took a little walk to the park and prayed, and I talked to one of my spiritual mothers, and she re-guided me and stuff like that, and let me understand that because I've been so connected spiritually with God, and I've reconnected with God, and that I'm in a really good place, that's trying to be attacked. My household is trying to be attacked because I built up this force field here, but as soon as something else comes out from the outside, it starts to shake in here. So it's just like, okay, well, then you have to put your foot down, you have to move in the way that you're supposed to. So I went back to church. The message that was received, first of all, like I said, I come from a Baptist, Pentecostal, black shouting type church. Mm-hmm, this is a predominantly white church. They don't, like, we do praise in the black church. Well, the black churches that I went to, they do worship. And the way that they call the spirit into the service, it's through worship. It's not through high tempo praise music. It's through slow chanting, really melodic songs that really, you connect different when worshiping. Worshiping is so different than, like, immediately I felt like when I got to that point, like, okay, I may be the only black person in here. It doesn't matter. I'm here for one thing and one thing only. I need to receive the word. I need to get
you needed that nourishment.
Yeah,
you needed to be nourished.
I needed to be around some people that I need some strength. I need to be built up so I can go back into my home and do what's necessary that God needs me to do. So, like, I was worshiping, and I'm not a person that, like, lifts my hands. I don't like to show vulnerability. I don't like to cry and all that stuff. But I found myself there in a new environment like that. I was like, wow, okay. So what I'm used to, like I said, I left the church for a reason because it wasn't resonating with me. But now, and now I'm in a place that I'm like, okay, like, I'm feeling something. First thing to do, I'm feeling something. I said, okay. And then the word, I FaceTimed my mom right before I walked in the church and said, Mom, I'm going to church. It's just me and the baby. I'm going to church. But I'm going to church. And she said, okay. She's like, did you bring a Bible? I said, no, I have the app on my phone. She's just like, well, after service, go get a Bible so you can write in the margins and you can really pay attention and learn something from the lesson. Didn't have to do that. This church gives programs with the scriptures and fill in the blanks so you can pay attention, and they give you pens and stuff. So I'm like, okay. I said, okay, Lord. I was like, okay. So
I see you.
Yeah,
I see you.
And the message was about relationships and faith. And he was reading out of, I can never say this, Colossians. But
don't give me a line.
I have the program over there. But basically, it was telling us how God has ordained marriage to be in the household, and how I was feeling discouraged because I felt like I wasn't as spiritual as I need to be at one point in time, and then I'm supposed to be the leader, and I wasn't influencing my husband the way that I felt like I needed to. I felt like I was missing the mark. He was like, if your spouse is not a believer, you're not to leave them because you don't know how you can save them. They don't leave you, then you don't leave them. And that was a conversation that honestly that we were having. We're not getting along since all this is going on. Like him being at work all the time and coming home, and it's just like a whole bunch of stuff like that. Like that was like a conversation which never should have. I felt like it should have never been a conversation, but in the heat of discussion, it comes up. So. And stuff like that. I was feeling very discouraged, but in that moment, basically, I was getting that reassurance that I'm not to leave. My job is still set, and if he is willing to stay in this household and be around me and be influenced, then I just need to move. He'll see who I am. He'll see the blessings. He'll see the peace. He'll see the happiness. And I believe, and I've always believed that that's why my husband is with me, because there's something in me that he feels like he needs, as we've already established, talking about that conversation that we had when we were 19, coming back to where we're about to turn 23. He still needs something from me. And like I said, like in that moment when I was silent, of course, if I'm silent and I cannot pray for my own self, think about how I'm lacking in my household, how I'm lacking praying for my husband. Like there was a disconnect there. So in that time when that barrier was broken, that stuff like that, it needed to be rebuilt up. So I got myself to a place and I realized that God is telling me, okay, you're here where you need to be. I got you. You can hear me now. This is the work that I prepare for you to do in your household, to get your household to where it needs to be. And for me to go to church, for me to get this thing, for me to go to a church that I've never been to before, sit down and literally hear a lesson of how we're supposed to interact and how my influence is important and how I've been called as a wife and what my significance is. Because that's another thing that me and you talked about, how I didn't feel like what my jobs were now were significant.
We're important.
Yeah, we're
and
important.
it's super important.
And that they are. And for me to get that reassurance from a source, I prayed before I walked in that church. I said, Lord, I'm nervous, but I'm coming to you and I'm asking for you to do exactly what's needed in me. I don't know what I need, but you do. And then when we're praying, I feel like a lot of us, we pray for specific things, which is fine, but sometimes we don't know what we need. So it's just like I tend to ask God, you know, God, what I need. So do what you need to do with me.
You know what's on my heart. Exactly.
Lead me.
This is where the importance of staying open to receive the message however it comes. It honestly, it doesn't matter where it's coming from or how it's coming, just as long as you get it. But when you get fixated on just one thing, like you were just like, you know what, the church wasn't for me, but something popped into you and said, you know what, go check this out. Because just at that time it wasn't for you. You were in a different place and you weren't in maybe the right one for you at that time. Which I think is beautiful. And I encourage like everyone, everyone that's listening, try a bunch of different things. Try a lot. Try a lot of different places, organizations, different religions, whatever. Just experiment, do that research, because you'll pick up something from everywhere. Everything, you'll be able to pull something and be able to see like, okay, this really resonates with me. Like this is that. Just try, just open yourself up, keep yourself open. And I promise you, you're always going to get exactly what it is that you need and exactly when you need that. Like you walked into there and they happen to be talking about marriage and relationships. Come on, you can't make that up.
No, literally, you cannot. You cannot. You can, and that's what I'm saying. Like, for him to be gone for 5 days in the field and how much peace was in my household, not saying because he was gone there was peace, but there was a lot of me just connecting with myself and God and being creative. I really got into a lot of work last week. I was really busy and stuff like that, and I was just busy doing what I was passionate about. And for him to come home late, tired, dirty, his beard grew back. Like it was like he was feeling rough. And that weight of all the work and the lack of sleep and the lack of nutrition and all the stuff that they really go through out there, and to come back into a place where I've been nurtured all week and I've been in the bosom. I've been coddled all week long, literally in my space. And he's coming to a place where he needs that, but he wasn't receptive to it. He had walls up. He wasn't receptive to
For
it.
Sure.
And
which is definitely understandable.
And
it's very understandable.
And that was one of the hardest things for me, because obviously I ain't seen my husband in 5 days. I miss him, and he can't be loving on me like I want him to. Like, he can't. So it's a hard place for me to just accept that. And I spent a lot of time with myself at that point. I went out to the pool. I talked to my neighbors. I mingled and stuff like that, and just gave him his space until went to church. I let him know that I was going to church. We weren't really speaking a lot, but I came back later on that afternoon. A lot of things, he had came down and we actually could sit there and talk and we could understand more. And he actually agreed to go to church with me, which is good, which is great.
Yeah.
Because for him he didn't put up a fight or anything or side eye or anything like that. Like, he literally said, yes, I will. I also think he was kind of, why didn't she invite me to church? Type situation. But I needed to go for myself. That message, although there were some points that he could have felt too, I had to go for the household and myself. So it's just but it was just like, how crazy am I coming into a lesson of exactly what I need at that time, how we're supposed to communicate when. And then what was it also? It was just like, when a wife's angry, she's feeling unloved. When a husband's feeling angry, he's feeling disrespected. And that touched me, because it's just like, our love languages are different, like male and female. And just as human beings, as individuals, our love languages are different. They got into that too. I was just like, dang, that's honestly, like, if I'm upset, I'm literally like, I need something from you. And I need a hug. I need some TLC. I need you to love on me a little bit. But if he is upset, like, he's cooling until he gets upset. He feels disrespected. Like, they were doing stuff in the field. He felt I was late picking him up, so he felt like, how could she leave me out here? So he was upset that way. So it's just like, okay, like, just thinking about different stuff and getting a different perspective about our situation, and like, oh, okay, so we just need to take the time and slow down, especially us being so young. But I'm just thankful that we're both willing to learn and both willing to humble ourselves enough to receive and also take each other's leads also, because I'm not the only one that's being influential. He definitely steers me in the right direction a lot as well. So that's a blessing. But in the midst of all the commotion, you don't see what God's doing until you calm down. And that's where I was. I really did not understand a lot. And I was really hurt and confused. And I was just like, dang, I'm feeling good about my work and my business. And I'm understanding who the heck I was called to be. And la da 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 da. And then now I'm like a terrible person. And my intentions were not so. So it's just great to know that, to have those check-ins with God. Like, God is just like, hey, I'm still here. Hey, I got you. Hey, just keep listening.
Thanks for tuning in to #Certified. If anything resonated with you, I would love to continue the conversation. You can follow me on Instagram at @itistisha. And if you want to be a part of the #Certified tribe, you can join my Facebook group by going to the search tab and putting in #Certified. My website is conversationswithtisha.com. As always, have a great one on purpose. Love you.